So here's a question. What are the settings I use on my GoPro for vlogging? You know, vlogging meaning turning the camera toward yourself and talking to the camera. Oh, and I do have a vlogging in public challenge happening right now, and I'll tell you more about that later, but you can win a Hero 11. But let me just get right to it and shout out to Jess on Instagram for asking the question. And by the way, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name's Danny Black, and if you like this GoPro stuff, well, make sure you hit that button right there. Don't be a stranger. Also, if you can click that one too, that does help out a lot on this channel. I'll put links to everything down in the description, plus some coupon codes and a surprise link. If you're like, I thought you were gonna get right to it. Well, this is part of it because I'm vlogging right now, so you need to see what the settings are for how I do this. I'll also even tell you the settings for the Hero 10 and the Hero 9 as well. Although they're basically the same settings except for one big difference, which we'll circle back to.
Mr. Black.
So let's just set up a vlogging preset. Click on this spot right here up in the corner, and then you'll see a little plus sign, and you're gonna click on that, and that's gonna add a new preset. I like to put it on 4K 30, not 60, because for me, the only reason I would shoot in 60 is if I might need to slow it down half speed, but for me, just like talking to the camera, I don't really need to slow it down half speed. Now, if you're getting that light flicker, go down and change it from 60 hertz to 50 hertz, or vice versa, depending on where you are, and that will eliminate that, but also that'll change it from 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second to 25 and 50. But that slower frame rate, 30 frames per second or 25 frames per second, will also help on your battery and also keeping it going longer without having to worry about it overheating. I like to put the lens on wide, and then I like to have my camera about 3 feet away from my face like this. Now, if I have some really cool surroundings, like if I'm walking through an alleyway or something like that, I'd put it on super view, which we can actually change quickly with some shortcuts, which we'll get into in a second. Also, I'm using this Tellison selfie pole, and honestly, this is like one of the best ones out there. It is super lightweight, but very strong. It goes out very far, and it has a very comfortable grip for your hands. So hyper smooth, I just like to have it on the basic one. I keep it on 10-bit color. The bit rate I put on high, shutter auto, EV balance 0, white balance auto, ISO minimum 100, ISO max 1600. Sharpness I put on medium, and color I put on natural, but for the Hero 9, I put the color profile on GoPro instead of flat. Wind I turn off because I use this wind slayer, this foam housing, and it does a great job so you can hear me with the regular GoPro mics. I don't have any external mics or lavs, and even when it's windy out like it is actually right now, it does a great job covering that up. But also you hear a little bit of that ambient noise, which makes it sound just more genuine of being out and about when you're talking to your camera, like vlogging like this. But I also like to have a shortcut for it because sometimes I do change that around. These are the shortcuts that you'll see on your main screen in the corners. Lower left, I set to lens, so you can easily change between wide and super view quickly. Lower right, I set to wind. So if it's really windy, even with the wind slayer, I could turn this on. So right now, I mean, it's windy right now. I can turn the wind reduction on, even with the wind slayer, just to help even more. Or if I don't have the wind slayer on at all, and maybe it's not windy, I just turn it off. Lower left, I put on white balance just so I can adjust the color temperature, because auto is usually good for everything, but if you're like going from sun to shade all the time, sometimes it's better just to put it on a certain temperature there so that you don't have to worry about it jumping around too much. And on the upper right, I put on hyper smooth. That's just in case if I need more stabilization or less stabilization, I can switch that easily. Like if I have it on a tripod or something like that, I just turn that stabilization off. So there we go, that's the preset. Now we just give it a name. So I'll choose selfie on this one. But we're not done yet. We're gonna go into the settings and click this screen icon, and then we're gonna make sure it's on actual screen and not just full screen, just so you can see the actual view. But be careful not to look at the screen when you're talking to the camera, unless you have sunglasses on. But what happens is, being this close, right now I'm talking to you, the viewer, which is great, but if I'm looking at myself, yeah, it feels a little bit disconnected because it's off just a little bit. Now, if it's far away, you don't see it as much, but when it's up close, you definitely see it. So make sure I'm talking to you, the viewer, right now, and not looking at myself. Okay, so now for the Hero 11 users out there, I do something a little bit different for me personally because I edit my footage. So I shoot it in 5K, 30 frames per second, full frame, 8x7, which you could actually use their preset because that does a really great job of it, but make sure you turn 10-bit on and you turn wind off, and everything else is the same as what we've talked about before. And this makes it so I have an 8x7 image instead of a 16:9. So when I'm editing it, I can scale it down from full frame to 16:9 video. That way if I have like too much headroom or maybe too much body room, I can scale that in and correct for that. And that actually happens a lot more than you'd think. So I love that feature on the Hero 11. Now, if you want to win a Hero 11, I have this ongoing challenge brought to you by Tellison. They're not sponsoring it, but they're providing the prizes. And if you want to be a part of that, check that out. You can click that video right there. Now, if the challenge is over, well, stay tuned to the channel because we do stuff like this all the time. It's a lot of fun here. Also, if you want to know how I would do vlogging in public, but in low light, check out this video right here. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.